Speaking of Ultimate, by which I mean speaking of comics, I'm not reading any Ultimate comics, but in April I signed up for another year of Marvel Comics Unlimited, or whatever they call it. And I kind of didn't use it for a few months, which was stupid of me. But I forget what I signed up to read. Was it just Amazing Spider-Man? It might have been Amazing Spider-Man. But I couldn't remember where I left off last time I was reading Amazing Spider-Man, because I was trying to read it. I started from Silver Age, I was trying to read it from the very start, which is not recommended for comic reading, by the way, but... Oh yeah, that's what I did first, actually. I tried starting with Volume 5, which was like 2019 or something. And it's good, but it's also full of exposition to catch you up on the Spider-Man lore, and I was like, I'd rather just experience it firsthand. So I was going to do that. And I had already started reading Amazing Spider-Man years before, so I was going to try and continue that, but I couldn't remember where I left off. This is really going to test my ability to talk about a topic and compete. But, so I left, it must have been years ago, it must have been like 2017 or something, I was reading through it. And I think I got, well, I know now I got to issue 153 from issue 1. But I didn't know that for a while. I had to kind of like do some digging on my social media to figure out... Actually no, I was looking through covers because I remembered the cover of the last one. But I only just figured it out yesterday. But I was basically reading from like issue 120 or something. Which is the night Gwen Stacy died. So I was like, I know I've read that. That's the last major event I remember happening, so I'll read it from there. But like, it's great and all. Silver Age Spider-Man, it's really fun, it's really interesting, because it's obviously a very different time. But it's also, you know, I really wanted something modern to read. Like, I was getting quite impatient with it, as much as I was enjoying it, which is something I hate about myself, but that's the way it is. So last night I watched a YouTube video of someone recommending where to start reading a whole bunch of Marvel comics. So like, if you type it in YouTube, you'll probably get the same video I did. I think his name was something to do with a dog. All I remember was him saying use code WOOFWOOF at checkout for one of his sponsors. So you can probably figure it out based on that. But he recommended a bunch of comics for people who haven't read a lot of comics yet. And I went with a Daredevil one he recommended. Actually, I didn't go for the specific paperback issue he recommended, because that was like issue 34 of that volume of Daredevil. I mean, I'm pulling that number out my ass, but it's something like that. But basically, I decided I'll just start with issue 1 of that volume. It's 1999 Daredevil, and it's really good. I'm only 2 issues in, to be fair. Who are you? Okay, you're a player. You can overtake me if you want. But yeah, it's really damn good. I'm really enjoying it so far. And I think what I'm going to try and do is continue reading through Amazing Spider-Man, Silver Age stuff, but alongside it, read some modern stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to be reading like Daredevil from 1999 all the way up to what it is now, or if I'm going to stop after a specific storyline and just jump into these specific storylines, or how I'm going to do it. It's kind of difficult to read comics if you're like anal about continuity like I am. But I've tried to be like, tried to cut loose about that kind of thing before. But like, I think the thing that killed the last time I tried to read comics a few months ago was I was like, oh, they've got a nice reading order for like comic events, so I can just read a comic event and like all the comics, like instead of just reading like, for instance, I own the trade paperback of the first Civil War run, which was its own comic line, but it's not good, like, as in trade paperback form, because it doesn't give any context to the heroes and where their lives are now, obviously, and like, it's not a good one to start with. I chose a really bad one to start with, basically, all those years ago. But like, for instance, on the Marvel Unlimited app, you could read it, and it would be like, oh, here's the reading order for like, here's Civil War, and then that same month we published like Civil War Spider-Man 1, Civil War Captain America 1, Civil War Iron Man 1, you know? So you could get like the full stuff behind it. I didn't do it with Civil War, but I did try to read, I forget what it's called, but one of the famous X-Men ones. But again, I'm not that familiar with X-Men, so like at all. Like I've never really read an X-Men comic, so that was probably a bad place to start. But it was to do with Wanda, I think, conjuring like a different world for all of these heroes. So like Spider-Man was like, oh, what if? It was like what if basically for all of the heroes. I forget what Spider-Man's scenario even was. I just remember he had J. Jonah Jameson working for him, and he was really mean to him. But the thing I don't like about that in the app, like the event reading order stuff, is when you finish a comic, it'll be like, okay, next issue, but it'll just be the next issue of that line of comics. It won't intuit the fact that you're reading through the reading order instead of just from the comic line itself. And it can get really like annoying, like going back and forth in the UI and everything. But anyway, I've realised instead of like trying to read an event that way through the app, or trusting the app to tell me where to start, I should just like watch YouTube videos of people who actually know what they're talking about and go from there. So yeah, I've been getting into comics via the Marvel Unlimited app. I have had it before. I had it sometime in 2018 or 2019, and I used it to read all of Ultimate Spider-Man, which was absolutely fantastic read. I think that was the first one that was recommended in the video I watched, actually, to be fair. I think I used it to read all of Ultimate Fantastic Four as well. I used it to read Miles Morales' first stuff after the Ultimate stuff, when he got put into the mainline canon. What else did I read? I think there was something else. But either way, I got my year's worth out of it then. And I almost just let it languish this time. Because, as I mentioned, I couldn't really get into it. Oh, sorry, mate. How do I say sorry? I don't have sorry. That's embarrassing. Oops. Now I'm in my own head about it. But I was doing so well when I wasn't concentrating on actually driving. Isn't that funny? I guess overthinking can be a bad thing. But yeah, I'll keep you updated. Oh dear. I'll keep you updated on how the Daredevil run goes. But it's like, I could tell, like, maybe it's just because I've been reading a whole bunch of Silver Age comics recently, but I could tell, like, a few pages in, I was like, oh, this is good stuff. And I just know there's so many comics out there for me to read. Just Marvel comics on that service. If you've never had Marvel Unlimited, no, this is not a sponsored stream, other comics are available. But if you've never had Marvel Unlimited and you really like the MCU and stuff, I highly recommend it. It's comprehensive is what that app is, the amount of stuff on there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they literally had everything on there. I think there's like a 6-month wait for new comics, but other than that, like, from 6 months backwards, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just everything that they had ever published. I'm sure there's a couple gaps, but I haven't noticed.